Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to go through a simplified leg as well. So we're going to be doing a simplified version and then one with some muscle. Obviously it's not going to be too complicated because you guys are beginners. You guys don't need to know exactly all the muscles. You just have to know where they're placed and how they function or what they look like when they're in certain poses. So let's get started. So we're going to do a similar process to how we did the arms. If you want to draw the leg, you can just simply draw in some rectangles. I would kind of just put one direction this way and one direction kind of the opposite, because that's sort of like how the calf is when it comes to the leg itself. So let's go ahead and do that. I would say that the leg would also be divided in about like 1/2 or a little bit more than 1/2. So if you want to do that, that could be a good reference for you guys to do. So we're going to actually divide these into two groups. One is the frontal group and one is the more side group, or the back, as I mentioned before. I think I mentioned it before, but I don't exactly remember. But anyways, so we'll turn this and we'll do that again. This is the foot here, so we just draw that really quickly. Then we are going to push out some forms. So we have one form that is our glute area, and this is our quads. This group is our quad and our side muscles here. So this I would just say group as one. Here we have the knee. Now the knee can just be simplified as one dimple and then the second one, which we will describe later on. And this is still the front of the box, so that includes the calf muscles and everything else. And this is just one big mass. The other side is our adductors, which is a more rounder muscle that kind of is also surrounded by fat pads. And here is the other side of the calf muscle, and that kind of goes inward. So that is our leg, more simplified, but I would actually suggest you guys draw it like that. Here's the ankle area. So once you kind of separate these out into number 1 and number 2, it becomes a lot easier to understand how the leg works. So let's go for more of a muscular format. We're going to just do the left leg here. This is left leg. This is going to be the right leg. So once again, we are just going to put in some rectangles. And if you want to put these into cylinders, we can easily do that by just putting some ellipses around. So what I would do is to understand where is the ellipse heading. It's in front of us, then we will put it more to this side. And because we're looking down on this leg, on this part of the leg, we will see the top part of the leg here. And we can draw in the shape of the calf. Then we can draw in the leg itself here. So once we have that pretty much done, we can input in some muscles. So our first group would be our sartorius. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention that this part is, this little dividing line here is where the sartorius is placed. So it's more the inner side of the leg. So if you remember, if you're in my previous courses, you remember how I taught the sartorius. Well, I'm going to update you on that. And actually, it doesn't split into two. It's just only one long muscle that rotates on the inner part of the leg. It's not two muscles, or it's not like muscles that kind of go like that or kind of connect on both sides. The other side of the muscle is actually your iliotibial tract, which is a tendon, and it made it look like as if the sartorius was going in two. So that was my mistake there. And if you guys are looking at this, I will update you guys on that when I make another course on that. So anyways, here is the sartorius, which wraps around from the inner side and wraps around to the kneecap. So kneecap can be just referenced as a little box area here. Here are our adductors, and there are more muscles in between, but I'm just going to just be simplifying that as adductors and just going to say this is your adductors. These are your inner parts of the muscle here. And this part is part of your, I believe it's your part of your quads on the left side. I forgot what the name is called. I'll have to label these once I am pretty much done. So let me actually go and check real quick. I believe it is the rectus lateralis, but I have to check. So I'll be right back. Okay, yes, it's called your vastus medialis. This is the inner part of the leg here. Let me just double check. Yes, I think that is the vastus medialis. And then on the other side, which I will draw the other side, is called the vastus lateralis. But anyways, you don't really need to focus on that too much. Let me go back and draw in the muscles on the other side here. So here are your quads. This is your rectus femoris, I believe, or vastus femoris. I think it's rectus femoris. Sorry about that. Sometimes the names aren't always my forte. I just know where they're placed. So you have your main quad up here. And they're kind of split into two. They're almost like your bicep. Actually, no, they're not bicep. They're kind of almost like your tricep or something like that. They kind of split into two, and there's a tendon that goes and connects to your, that just connects to your kneecap. So this is kind of like your elbow, but backwards. Yes, this is like your tricep. So if you think about this as a tricep and this as the elbow, it's basically, you know, the arm, but backwards. Here is your vastus medialis on this side of the inner parts. Here's your kneecap, and then here is the tendon that goes, I believe it's a tendon, that goes down, straight down to your, it's either a muscle or a tendon, I think it's a muscle, that goes straight down your shin. And then here is your calf muscle, which is at the back. So that is one side of the leg. Now let's go ahead and do the other side, which is our side. And we'll do a back view as well. So let me go ahead and do that. Sorry if you see me pausing here, I'm just looking at my notes because they're kind of far away from me at the moment. Okay, I got it. So let's go ahead and, let's go ahead and draw in our side view. So when it comes to the side view, of course, we want to just do the same thing. Here is our pelvis, just really roughly. Here is our leg, our kneecap, and our bottom part of the leg. And here is our foot. Same thing, we can simplify these into rectangles. Kind of oddly shaped rectangles, I should say. This is your calf, this is your side. So here we have the glutes. Here is your femur. This is the middle part of your, this is where your bone kind of pops out. Here, let me start from the left. Okay, so here is your tensor fascia, which is a little muscle that kind of rotates around. Here is your gluteus medius, I believe that's what it's called. It's on the side. And then here is your gluteus maximus. And this is all connected with a tendon that goes all the way down to the side, which is called the iliotibial tract, as I mentioned earlier, which made it look like it was a sartorius that split in two, but that's a common mistake. So let's go ahead and just update. I'm updating you on that right now. So tensor fascia, gluteus medius, and then gluteus maximus, which is your big glute. From here, outside, is your sartorius, just kind of peeking out. And by the way, this is just to show you what it kind of looks like in an artistic sense. Most of the time, or probably most of the time, this will be kind of more hidden or more subdued, but we're just popping it out because I want you guys to see where it is located. Here is your rectus femoris, right kind of in front. You don't really see it though. And then here, actually this should be a little bit lower. And then here is your rectus lateralis, which is the quad on your side. So this is more like the outer side. And that kind of is a big muscle that overlaps here. Here is your bicep femoris, which is actually your hamstrings. This is what looks kind of like your biceps on your arm. Here's your kneecap, which you don't have to worry about too much. And then here's your calf muscle. And here is your Achilles tendon, which goes down to your foot. And of course there are some other muscles towards the front of the leg, but we're not going to draw that too much. I think they're called the extensor digitorum longus and tibialis. You don't have to worry about that too much. You just got to know what the outside shape looks like. But these are just the main muscle groups. Here's your heel, and here is your foot. So that's what it looks like. Now let's draw in our back view. By the way, this side and this side are not the same. This is the inner leg. This is the inner part of the leg. This is the outer part. So if I were to just draw that real quick, it would be more like this. It's this way, not this way, but it works the same way. So here are your front muscles, all the way down here, and here are your other side, which is the inner part. So now let's go ahead and do a back view. Back view is a little bit more, it's actually a little bit simplified. So it's, I mean, what I mean is it's actually a little bit more, what's it called? Easier, I would say. So here we have our, once again, let's construct our leg here. I'm just kind of blocking it in with rectangles. Here's our heel. So here we have our, let's start from the butt here. We have our gluteus maximus, which is our big glute muscle. Then we have our gluteus medius. And then we have our tensor fascia coming through. That creates a nice little bump here. Now here we have our adductors on this side. This is the inner leg. Then we have our bicep femoris, which is our hamstrings. This is the bicep of this leg here. And here we have our, I believe it's our vastus lateralis, yes. And then here we have a bunch of tendons kind of mixing in together. But anyways, now we have our calf muscle, which is also split into two. So kind of just split these into two and kind of just make it a little bit higher on the outside and then lower on the inside. And here's a tendon that connects it back to the heel. And here we have a soleus muscle, which is on the inside, but you don't have to worry about that too much. So that is our back. Whoa, my lead came out. I will be right back and change the lead. Okay, so I realized I don't have any more 0.7 lead, so I'm using the same graph gear, but in 0.5, which is a thinner lead, but anyways. So yeah, that is basically your back. It's a lot simpler than the sides and the front and everything. So let's actually draw some legs in a more with skin kind of feel. So let's go ahead and do that. So I always like to draw in the pelvis first. I'm drawing a lady here, by the way. So here I have her waist. Let me go ahead and move this more this way. And then here I also like to, put in her legs. Just kind of simple. Just a simple leg here. If I want to make her have high heels, I can just go ahead and make her feet more pointed. Let me zoom in here. There. So if I want to draw in her hip area, we can go ahead and just draw that real quick. We have her sheath and her pubic area, obliques, hip dip, great trochanter, adductors. We have her kneecap and the fat pad that kind of goes around her knees. Then we have her legs. So very, very simple. And let's do the other side. And if you're going to make her leg a little bit more spread out, make sure you draw the buttocks at the back or the sits bones. Indicate that. So here is her adductors. Here is her side of the leg. Here's a sartorius that separates between the two, which I feel makes it look a lot more sexy, or just makes it a lot more nice and voluminous. Here we have the kneecap, an extra fat pad at the bottom. And then here we have the calf, and the other side of the calf. Actually, that doesn't look very good. Let me go ahead and erase that. But yeah, once you understand where the muscles are placed, you can just simplify it to something like this, and it'll become a lot easier rather than be confused about it. So that's what one side looks like. If I'm going to draw a side view, I'm going to draw something like a leg bending back with her toe pointed down, and then the other leg just more straight. I can just block that in. Here we have her pelvis kind of sticking out. Whoops. There. Then we have her glute area, a little bit of her tensor fascia, and then here we have her leg. So notice how I'm making this bump here. That is your rectus femoris, which is your the front quad sticking out. If you do that, it makes it a lot more nicer to look at. Here is the bicep femoris, which is your hamstrings. And notice how I like to add a little hook here. That's just to make it more, just to make it nicer to look at as well, and because it shows form. Here is our calf, and then here is the front. Here's the heel. Here's the foot. Same thing on the other side, just kind of indicate it. Calf, foot. That's what it looks like. So once you guys understand where it all is, then you guys don't have to worry too much about where all the muscles are. You guys can just understand what this looks like with the skin on. So let's go ahead and just draw some back legs. And let's go ahead and do a male and female version. So let me go ahead and zoom out. Let's do a female one first. We have our pelvis going from the back. We have our great trochanter, which is the bone. Here's the leg going straight, and one leg kind of more pointed downward. When it comes to the pelvis at the back, make sure that you draw your little sacrum or tailbone area. And for the buttock area, we have for the glutes, just remember that for the girl, it's smaller up at the front and relaxes more towards the back. And this is like your gluteus maximus. This is your gluteus maximus over here, your gluteus medius, and your bit of your tensor fascia on the other side. Here is the pubic area, or the genitalia. Here we have our adductors. If you want to indicate that, go ahead and do that. Adductors on the inside. Here we have our bicep femoris, which can be simplified into just putting in two little rigid areas here, just to kind of show that this is where it ends. And our calf area. Our Achilles tendon. So by understanding where everything is, it becomes a lot easier to simplify. So I'm just more teaching you guys how to, where all the muscles are, and knowing how to draw that. Here's our soleus muscle, which it isn't really seen unless you work it out, but we're going to do that anyway. And then here is our heel, and a little bit of the foot. Let's do the other side. In this case, her leg is sort of tensed up a little bit, so I'm going to make my bicep femoris a little bit, or my calf muscles a little bit more squished, rather than more long like this. You don't have to focus too much on the feet yet, but just understand that this is what it looks like. We have our bottom, we have our heel, and then we have our bottom side of the foot, and then we have the top side coming through. So that is the female butt. Now let's draw the male one for the back. So same process. Let me go maybe do a different direction here. Sacrum. Maybe have this more bent. Have this more straight. We can simplify this into cylinders, or even simplify this into rectangles, and we can just build from there. Here is our foot. And then here's our other foot, more in the front. Let's go ahead and erase some of this just so we don't get confused. So let's start off with our glutes. We have our more butterfly-shaped glutes. Here's our femur, and here is our gluteus maximus coming through. Guys' butts tend to be a little bit smaller just because of how they're structured. Here's the tensor fascia kind of coming through here. When it comes to ladies, the reason why we look more curvaceous is because our bottom, we're more bottom heavy here. For guys, it's a bit smaller because they're smaller here, and they're kind of like big here and smaller here. So let me actually just redo that there. That's why when it comes to girls' butts or bottoms, I need to make my language sound a bit more professional. That's why it looks a bit more curvaceous at the bottom, more like bells. And this side is more like a butterfly. So here, once again, we have our leg coming out. Here we have our calf splitting into two. And then our Achilles heel at the back. We have the bottom of the foot and the top of the foot here. If you want, you can draw some, guiding lines here. Here is our soleus muscle, and then the front of the leg here. That is our bottom part of the leg. Here, I'm going to make this a little bit more muscular by putting in our rectus lateralis on this side, make it a little bit more bulged out. Here's our adductors, which can just be indicated really simply. And then here we have our bicep femoris, which is our hamstrings. You kind of have this, nice and tight area here. Let's do the same thing on the other side. Adductors, We have our rectus lateralis, vastus lateralis, sorry about that. And then our hamstrings. And I'm not a scientist or I'm not a doctor, so I don't know all these muscles by name, by heart, so forgive me for that. We have our calf muscle. And then we have our tendon. And I would say that this looks more masculine just because it's more emphasized. You can go without the skin on this. Here, this is just a little bit more feminine looking because it's softer. So, yeah, that is pretty much it for this video. Let me know what you guys think. Hopefully that this helped a bunch. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.